waiting on Facebook just to give me confirmation, because we've literally either gone live in the wrong groups before and or thought that we were live and we were just sitting here basically talking to ourselves. So neither of those are ideal. But if you are coming on here, make sure to say hello. I know we switched the time on you today. We were experiencing some technical difficulties earlier, so we apologize for that. Maybe not apologize, but say we appreciate you for understanding and being flexible, because we would do the same for any of you in our world. So yeah, come on in, say hello. We'll wait just a minute or so before we kick off. This is call number 3 of the 21-day Summer Ready challenge, and puts us almost halfway through the challenge. So today's topic, we are going to talk about how to use carbs for body fat loss, and just kind of taking that a step further, how basically like sort of detaching from just the number on the scale, and we'll get a little bit more into that conversation as we go on today. Hi Stacy, hi Lisa, thank you ladies for being flexible for us today. I think either way, whether you're on here live, I'm a little bit biased, like live experiences just land a lot harder for me personally, and I am willing to bet that's true for anybody. Just being in that live energy makes a big difference. Not that there's anything wrong with catching the replay when we need to, but so just to kind of frame today's call, we will still work to keep it to about 30 to 45 minutes. We will open up for some questions at the end. There was an opportunity for you to submit questions to us for this call. The other day we posted it in the Nutrition Secrets for Women group. And that post is still up if you want to check it out and ask any questions that you might have for Jamie's training on Friday. But tonight's topic is, so what I was going to say is we're going to answer those questions towards the end of tonight's call, squirrel brain. But so today's call, we will finish with that. We will also finish with letting you know about an opportunity that you can step into if you desire to stay on with us. If not, we hope you enjoy and get a lot out of the rest of tonight's call. So I want to open up by sharing a little clip with you guys. I'm going to do a screen share. And the reason why I want to do this is it's a music video, and maybe you've heard the song, maybe you haven't, but I feel like it truly embodies our message when it comes to nutrition and fitness, and the simple fact that we do need to focus on physiological health markers in order to see sustainable fat loss. So, probably 99.9% of you are in this group because you desire some level of fat loss, which is great. Just to kind of like reiterate, part of our message is taking that a step further and fully stepping into your power. So I feel like having you listen to this little video clip will just get all of your brain juices going and all the emotion around like, why are you here? And I want you to kind of sit with that thought as you do listen to this clip, okay? So maybe it sounds a little bit silly to you. I don't care. This is what I want you to do is you're just going to kind of like clear your space. If you're driving, obviously like don't close your eyes, but if you are not driving, maybe close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just kind of like, instead of going from whatever you were at right into this call, just kind of clearing some mental space for you right now. Give yourself the same type of space you would if you were meeting a good friend for lunch, and just giving that level of attention to what you are doing right now. So, hi, Clara. Thank you so much. Hello, Grace. All right. I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share, and hopefully there won't be any feedback with this, but if there is, you should still be able to get the gist. I'm going to share a couple minutes of this with you, and then we will come back to tonight's topic of how to use carbs for fat loss. The reason I wanted to share that video clip with you is what do you desire, right? So going back to the declaration you made to yourselves on day 1, what is it that you desire? We constantly play this comparison game, which is again, part of why I shared that clip with you is, women basically just thinking they have to be as pretty as they can be, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel beautiful. Being obsessed in the sense of like, how much can I shrink myself? And that's no disrespect to anybody who might possibly be listening that does compete in beauty pageants or body building or physique or bikini. But it just, there's a huge difference between being a competitor in those fields and just going for general fat loss and general health, right? So we have to understand that unless you're willing to like thoroughly deprive yourself, there's just no sense in trying to push yourself to the extent that it would take to step on a stage like that. The constant focus is like on the scale. I'm not small enough. My clothes aren't fitting just the way that they did on, whatever model. And it's just going back to like that comparison game. So I want you to let us know, like, what resonated with you? Like, what did you receive from listening to the lyrics of that song or watching the little piece of that music video? And go ahead and let us know in the comments. And then just circling back around to a statistic that's thrown around all the time, Jamie and I have used it in the past inside of this group of fours. The weight loss industry in and of itself is a $70 billion industry. $70 billion industry. And so what I want you to take away and understand from that is that there's a huge disconnect, right? Companies claim like guaranteed weight loss. They're basically, putting you into ultra restrictive protocols, and you're just ending up right back where you began. And I'm going to like kind of connect all these dots for you and how all of this is relevant to like my journey and my story. And then inside of that, it's teaching you how to truly use carbs to your advantage to create the fat loss that you do desire. Do we have any comments come through on, did anybody? Okay, we can come back to that. So here's the thing is like commenting how you feel after that clip, I understand is like a vulnerable thing to do, and or some of you might be driving home from work or whatever else. But if you do drop your comments, we can possibly circle back around before we do wrap up tonight's call, but I'll go ahead and keep moving. So, am I on live right now? I'm just seeing a message from Jamie. Let me double check. Please hold. Please hold. I just want to make sure that we're not talking to ourselves right now. Sorry about that, guys. So we are still on. Jamie's getting a message that we were kicked off because I played that song and we do not own the copyrights to it. So learning lesson for me. What I do want you to do is, this is what we'll do. I'll remind you at the end of the call. I want you to go back, and I'll actually just drop the link for it in the comments of this video. I want you to go back and listen to at least the part that I marked was like 3:33 to 5:45, but the entire song really like embodies the message fully. So apologize for more technical difficulties. But okay, so going back to that statistic, $70 billion industry, the weight loss industry, okay? And since the start of COVID, the statistic is that the obesity rates have increased by 30%. And so I want you to think about that for just a second, really let that sit in, because there's so many things constantly being marketed to us, whether like in the online space or like you get in your car and you listen to the radio and there's, a juice cleanse that promises like 30 pounds fat loss in 30 days. But like, pause when you hear these things, right? Is that going to be sustainable? Can you sustain that for the rest of your life? Can you even sustain that fat loss for a week after you reintroduce foods? And I think we all know at the end of the day that the answer to that question is no. And so why do we keep plugging into these things? We're feeding that $70 billion industry. There's, just like anything else in the world, there's companies that do care about your long-term, achieving of that result. And like, can we just acknowledge the fact that your health should be a concern inside of that journey as well? It shouldn't just be, let me drive myself into the ground to get to, this place that I think is going to be this ideal place. When you reach that, you understand that it's not sustainable and it's not ideal, right? So let's do it differently this time. And so if you are on with us, something that you can answer in the comments is like, what do you really want? Going back to, if you were on with us day one, you made a declaration to all of us and to yourselves. What was that thing? Are you working closer toward that? Or do you feel like you're moving further away from it than you were just over a week ago? Either way, I want you to, like, first of all, be super honest with yourself. I know some of what I'm saying tonight might be a little bit triggering, and it's not like trying to talk down or at anybody. I do feel very passionately about this topic because I struggled with staying on this roller coaster for such a long period of my life. And part of, my mission and my goal in being here and leading inside of this group is to help every single one of the women inside of this group avoid the pitfalls that I experienced. So you made a declaration on day one. What was that? Declare that again. And map it out. How is that going to change your life, right? I asked you to journal about this on day one. And I'm really curious to know how many of you did. Just let me know in the comments. Just say I did or I did not. I'm gonna see if I can get the comments on here. I'm not seeing any come through. Okay. I'm not sure if anyone's on here live with us. So here's the thing. I'm willing to bet that most of you walked away and you did not journal. Tell me if I'm wrong. Again, I know that might be kind of triggering, okay, what's your point, right? But I say this just to try to push you, to try to motivate you, coming from a place of love, right? And so here's the thing is, if you weren't able to do that one thing on your own, you can go through this challenge and you can tell yourself, I'm going to do all the things. It's going to be different this time. But if you didn't journal, chances are you're not going to follow through. And so we are, like I said, we will have an offer for you if you're somebody who would like to step into being led by somebody who understands fully how to get you from where you are today to the end result where you desire to be. So I know I've asked you to be vulnerable with us inside of this call tonight. So I'm going to do the same. And I'm just going to share with you. So, when I asked how you feel about that video or how it resonated with you, and again, if you didn't get to watch that, I apologize. Facebook trademark things, it all makes sense, but I will drop that link for you. So when I started my journey, I desired to begin to reclaim my health and reclaim my power inside of that. The overarching message we're going to continue to circle back around is fully stepping into your power, because ultimately how you show up with your nutrition and your level of just health and or fitness is really part one of fully stepping into your power. So that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to feel confident in my skin. I wanted to go so badly to a pool party or a barbecue or whatever, people are in and out of a pool or a lake, and not think about, my belly or my butt or my thighs. I wanted to feel vibrant at all of these social gatherings and get-togethers. I wanted to just so badly just have all the confidence in the world and show up like the person, the highest self version of me that I know was inside. But here's the thing is, I continued to do what the dieting and weight loss industry was telling me to. And because of that, I experienced the exact opposite of all of those things, because I was so desperately just wanting this result, right? And so here's the thing is, I wasn't wrong for that. It was what I was taught by the industry. This is how it's done, right? You go on 1,200 calories, or you completely eliminate carbs, or you do something extreme to get the result. The thing is, it doesn't have to be that hard. You have to be consistent, but you do not and should not be that hard on yourself. I was constantly comparing myself to others. What does that lead us to? self-sabotaging thoughts, self-sabotaging behaviors, and all of that would just land me like worse off than I was with the previous dieting attempt, right? Because now I've gone off track again because I'm getting what we call shiny object syndrome and jumping to this next like quick fix, or this worked for my friend, or this worked for me in the past when I was younger. Like, chances are you probably suppressed your hormone and metabolism functioning inside of those previous attempts, and optimization needs to occur before you can create the sustainable change that you desire. Okay. So we all know that this is week 2, first of all, week 2 of the Summer Ready Challenge, right? But we all know that only so much change can occur inside of 3 weeks, inside of 21 days. We understand that life-changing results are not going to occur inside of 21 days, right? You can be sort of like reactivated in the sense of refinding some motivation that's maybe been gone for a while. It might catapult you forward a little bit, but then what? Okay. So again, some of you might be slightly triggered from me saying this, and it's just coming from a place of love. Like, I want to see you win. Okay. You can take and apply everything that you learn inside of this challenge, but the reality is probably 90% or more of you are not going to. You're going to say that you will tonight and inside of the rest of the challenge, but you'll get to the end. You might continue for like a week or two, and then, you know, the next thing comes up and it's kind of just like out of sight, out of mind, right? So for everybody that is showing up here tonight with us live and or watching the replay, we are going to offer, like, honor you for showing up here and being part of this challenge. You took that first step and you should be really proud of that. You showed up here, and like I said, we're going to honor that. So for anybody who decides that, like, okay, you're right, I've done this how many times before, I want a different outcome this time, I want to be led by somebody who's been able to produce this result for others and for themselves. And so here's what we're going to offer to any one of you that would desire this. No pressure if you don't. We're still going to get you all the information you need tonight, okay? So anybody who desires this, you have to take action by the end of Jamie's call on Friday, which will be, her calls at noon. So that'll be over by 1 p.m. So that's the cutoff for this offer. Hard boundary on that cutoff, because we are letting you know now, and this is to honor the people that are showing up either today or on the replay. And for coming back and watching the replay, kudos to you, because you know how many people that don't, like, that's amazing in and of itself. So to honor those of you here, we are offering you, this is insane, like, I can't even believe we're doing this. We're offering you 50% off of our one-on-one mentorship when it comes to nutrition and fitness. There are different options per se when it comes to that. So we're going to cover all of that at the end of tonight's call. Is going to be limited to 5 per option. We're going to offer 2 options. So 10 total spots will be available. But we'll go over all the information on that. If you desire that, just stay on till the end with us, okay? So going back to today's topic, you can, again, like, try to do it on your own like you have been, or you can come get that guidance with us. If you know already, if you're like, hell yeah, I want that, like, just write in the comments, I'm in, and we'll make sure to get you the link. But the rest of you, if you want more information, stay on to the end. All right, so I want you to understand the whole feel behind that video, right? So it's falling victim to the dieting industry or the weight loss industry. And the thing is, if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose the weight. But how many of you, and be really honest right now, like, how many times have you lost weight and kept it off? How many times have you lost weight and been successful? I forget what the number is. Like, I think it's 2 years is deemed like you're successful with your weight loss journey if you kept it off for 2 years. So how many of you have gotten to where you feel really good and you're like, this is the shape I want, this is the size I want, whether it's the number on the scale or not? How many of you have achieved that? Not only achieved that, but sustained that for 2 years? Just give us a yes or no in the comments. Right? So I'm willing to bet most of you say no. There's a very small percentage. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this obesity rate in our country, right? So Going back to sharing my story. So when I started, I was pre-diabetic. I was over 200 pounds. I smoked a pack of cigarettes every like 1 to 2 days. I ate a fast food meal pretty much every single day. I decided I would pass out because I was pre-diabetic. I would get hypoglycemic, and passing out was just like a normal thing for me. Like that was due to my health condition. So I'm just going to keep passing out as I pass out for the rest of my life. Right. I decided that I was too young. I don't want to live the rest of my life this way. And no matter what age you are right now, you can change where you're at despite what you maybe have been conditioned to believe. You don't have to accept your circumstance if you're not happy with your health or the way that you show up in the physical. Okay. So I just want you to know that like whatever goals you have for yourself, they are achievable. It's just making sure to set yourself up in an appropriate way rather than like jumping back into a 1200 calorie or some kind of juice cleanse or quick fix. Like we all know at this point in the call, like we're not here for that. We're done with that. We're not doing that anymore. Okay. And so I decided I wanted to get healthy. I went and got my personal training certificate, just to teach myself. I had no intention of, stepping into the health and wellness industry. And inside of doing that, people began to see my progress. It showed up in the physical. My health markers were improving. Like everything was getting better. I quit smoking. I pretty much quit eating fast food at that time. Can't tell you last time I had fast food other than just like an order of French fries or something. Gotta love French fries. But so I was doing all the things to be healthy, right? Well, I still found that even after like gaining that knowledge for myself, that I would, because of my conditioning and the way that the weight loss industry leads us to believe we need to take action, I still found myself eating like extremely low calories. Like I couldn't get out of that until I finally and this is like years after training people full time and nutrition coaching and running the nutrition seminars and all the classes and all the things. And I knew at a certain point that I had just kind of like run everything into the ground. Right. So it took me actually stepping into a coaching relationship and hiring a coach. So I kind of went from basically like overweight to, well, I forgot this part. Actually, I can't believe I forgot this part. I'm going to screen share again just so I can show you guys. I'm going to put it in present mode just so it's like the full vibe. We always like the full vibe. If I can find it. Okay. So overweight, over 200 pounds, fast food pretty much every single day. I decided at that time in my life, I didn't want to live the rest of my life that way. So you can see I went from 211 to 127. When I got to 127, I did it in a way where it was literally like nearly anorexic, like very disordered eating behavior patterns taking place to get me to that point. Inside of that, I became even more, had an even greater issue with hypoglycemia. I was passing out more frequently. You can just see it in my eyes. Like I don't even nobody's home, like zero cognition because I'm not even fueling my body enough energy to be able to think well. Just think about that for a moment. How often do you need to think clearly? And are you fueling your body enough just to be able to do that basic level of functioning every day, right? So I went from that to okay, I lost the weight, but I'm still very unhealthy. I'm going to say that again. I lost the weight and I was still very unhealthy. You can be extremely unhealthy at very low weights and or very low body compositions. Okay, so I decided I no longer just want to shrink myself. I hated how I felt. I never had energy to show up how I wanted to with my friends or my family. I lost my period. Just a whole host of things like the hypoglycemia, the passing out, all of those things became more prevalent than they had been in the past. I was doing this to be healthy, right? Well, I was not the epitome of health that I thought I would be when I got to this weight. I was not happy. Okay, so if you are trying to push to just how small can I make myself, you're not going to be able, I promise you're not going to be able to sustain that. your health is not going to allow you to. Okay. So you can either take this message and run with it today, or you can wait until the health markers start to show up. And we prefer that you do the first. We do not suggest the later. Okay. So going from like basically anorexic to I no longer want to be unhealthy. I just want to establish health. All I want is to be healthy. My focus is now health. Okay. Didn't matter. It took a lot of time, right? But like detaching from the number on the scale and focusing completely on how am I feeling? How am I sleeping? What is my digestion doing? Can I function at a high level that I desire to function in my everyday living, whether in or out of the gym, in, a work setting or environment, or just showing up and like having the energy to be that highest version of self that I know is inside with my friends, right? So everything I could do to support that higher version of self is what I adopted, going from like this nearly anorexic to this person here. I also was pushing to become an elite competitor in CrossFit, which I did. I kind of like checked that bucket list item off my list, had a great time doing it, but I found that the high intensity training began to interfere with my hormonal cycle. And then the weight came back on when I was doing nothing differently to get to that super shredded version of me, to, nothing, I didn't change anything. And all of a sudden, because of the hormonal issues, and then as a byproduct of the hormonal issues, my metabolism was suppressed, so not functioning at a high level anymore, I began to regain some weight. So again, I shifted. I was like, okay, that was a lot of fun. It was fun being super strong, super jacked. I still love to train hard, but not to the extent that I did to become an elite level competitor. So you can see I transitioned from competitor to just overall women's health. I still love like going and deadlifting 400 pounds. I'm not saying you need to do that. I love that feeling. But you also, this is another myth and like kind of like side tangent. You don't have to be extremely jacked to be extremely strong. And I think you could probably notice a difference between like the 168, which is here, and the 176 here. So circling back around, if you're solely focused on the number on the scale, you're always going to be pushing. And basically your outcome is going to be this version of self to some extent for you as an individual. Obviously you're different than I am and vice versa, but your hormones are being suppressed. You're not feeling your body adequately. You're not waking up feeling rested. Your digestion is probably a mess, or it is when you eat certain foods. Like you should be able to pretty much, unless you are diagnosed allergic to something, you should be able to consume any food and not have it like wreck you for a night. Like that should not be a thing. Okay. It doesn't have to be a thing. Again, unless you have a food allergy. So if you're obsessed with the number on the scale, you're pushing here. You don't ever have to go through like competitive stage, but what we are going to encourage you to do is, I never felt like more vibrant, more powerful, more confident, more of just being myself, being able to be the best of myself than I have like this version of self today. And so I'm not here to tell you what your goals should or should not be, but I do believe that majority of the women inside of this group are here for general health and general level of fitness. You're not trying to become an elite level CrossFit competitor. Okay. So in order to go from here to here and from here to here, I had to work with a coach. I wasn't going to follow through even after being in this industry for over a decade of these things on my own because of how we've been conditioned inside of this industry. And so I want to connect it back to that. It's super important to get the help that you need. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting the help that you need. Okay. So one more thing I want to say about circling back to like, I always thought I would be super content with my body if I could see my abs in that like elite level CrossFit competitor version of self. I still felt like I needed to lose weight. Like that's crazy, right? Like you could literally see all my muscles. I was super lean. I felt like I needed to lose weight. I wasn't happy because I hadn't stepped into my power in all of these other ways that Jamie and I are beginning to discuss with the women inside of this group, knowing that it wasn't, we didn't gain weight. We didn't become obsessed with the number on the scale because I use this example and it sounds kind of silly, but like, we don't have an issue with our body because we don't eat enough broccoli. So let's talk about what is really going on so that you can fix it in a sustainable way, right? And so circling back around to how did I become the elite level CrossFit athlete? How did I move into just overall being healthy? And it came down to this calorie cycling approach that we do use inside of this challenge. And so if you take your calorie cycle that you came up with on day one of the challenge, and whatever your low days are and whatever your high days are, if you just pick a protein number and a fat number to hit consistently, determine how many calories are coming from those proteins and those fats, and then subtract that number from that total daily calorie allowance, utilize the rest as carbohydrate. And that is literally how you carb cycle. It's just taking calorie cycle and adding a layer of complexity. But here's the thing. And so let me back up really quickly. Michelle Janes asked in the post that we gave you guys the opportunity to ask questions inside of this group. Michelle Janes asked, how many carbs should you be having in the day? I would go back to day one, how to calorie cycle, determine your calories first. Then what you're going to do from there is you want to figure out how much protein do you need. The recommended amount of protein that you should be getting is a minimum of, it depends on what source you check, but it would say 0.7 or 0.8 with upwards of 1.2 times your lean body mass in grams of protein. If you don't know what your lean body mass is, then you can just go off of your goal body weight. So if your goal body weight is, I'm just throwing out numbers for number's sake, if your goal body weight is 150, you can start with 0.7 or 0.8 times 150. That's your protein intake. Then you want to take about 20. Really, here's the thing. This can be a huge range, okay, for your fat content. That's your protein. For your fat content, you want anywhere from 20 to upwards of 50%. Now, depending on what your calories are, if you're at that higher end, you're not going to be able to digest that amount of fat, okay? So I always tell people start between 20 to 30% of your total calories. So you're literally going to take like 0.2, somewhere between 0.2 to 0.3 times your total calories. Okay. And then whatever that number is, you're going to divide it by 9 because there's 9 calories per gram of fat. That's going to give you how many fat grams you should consume in a day. And then you're literally just going to take whatever calories are left over. So you're going to take the calories from protein, calories from your fat, subtract it from the total value, divide that by 4 because there's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate. And that's how many carbohydrates you should be consuming. So there are so many variables when assigning and assessing like full macro breakdowns for people. So if you desire to get that one-on-one help, you can still do that. That offer was $111 for anybody inside of this challenge. We can help set you up with exactly what you need to know to have a place to start and kind of like what are your next steps from there. Okay, so if you desire that, just let us know, send us a message. The other question that was asked specific to carbohydrate was how many should you be having in a day? And when trying to lose weight, is there a specific timing you should eat your carbs relative to your workouts? It depends. Okay, so it depends on what time of day you work out. It depends on what is your current goal right now? Are you so I understand weight loss being the goal, but there is a periodization that needs to be inserted relative to a person's weight loss plan. We can't just automatically assume that the person or the individual is ready to go into a dietary setting and or like major caloric deficit, or I guess I should say moderate caloric deficit, right? We can't make that assumption. There's lots of questions that I would need to ask before being able to give specific advice here. But generally speaking, if you're going to get into nutrient timing, and let me just say this about nutrient timing is if you haven't nailed calorie cycling before even doing a full macro breakdown, that needs to come first. If you haven't been able to do a full macro breakdown successfully, moving on from the calorie cycling, then we shouldn't be adding an additional layer of complexity to your nutrition plan. It's just going to set you up for failure. Speaking from experience with both myself and clients over the past, how many years? Since 2009. Okay. But to answer that question, I do encourage people to get anywhere from 30 to 50%, again, dependent on how, like, what is the volume of carbohydrate that you're currently consuming, 30 to 50% from of your total daily calorie or your total daily carbohydrates, in your post-workout meal. Your body is most receptive to carbohydrate once you've worked out because you've depleted your glycogen stores, which is your body's storage form of carbohydrate in the muscle. Words are hard right now. Let me just take a sip of water. So that's the answer to that question. It's, first, are we calorie cycling successfully? Inside of that calorie cycling, are you hitting your protein and your fiber goals at minimum? If you're doing that really well, can we add a full macro breakdown, and are you successful doing that? Then and only then would I add any layer of complexity, no matter what that looks like. So I would say get really good at 1 and 2 first, and then you'll be able to understand what amount of carbohydrate that even looks like for you to have in your post-workout meal. Aside from that post-workout meal, I would say just to spread carbs out as evenly as possible. And if your total daily intake allows, work to be as close to like 1-to-1 carb to protein ratio the rest of the day. But that also depends on like how many meals, how many snacks. You see, there's like so many variables. That's why we're so big on just come on into the mentorship. And the offer that we're giving you is literally insane. So that's pretty much, does anybody on live with us right now have any questions about carbs? Let me just check the comments here. I unintentionally put myself in a calorie deficit for years, lost weight, then all of a sudden it doubled, and recently I've really struggled with getting it off. My hormones have been all over the place, currently down 11 pounds, and finally feel like I'm getting back on track. That's amazing. It's really hard. Like, it's really hard to do the right thing without somebody leading you and somebody to check in, because so much of it is like questioning yourself. Like, am I doing the right thing? Because doing the right thing goes against the grain a little bit. It goes against what we've been conditioned to believe we need to be doing. So let's see, another one. I've kept the weight off for almost 2 years, but recently gained 10 pounds. I don't want to fall back into old habits. So the advice I would give you, Grace, is just like, what were you doing when you were dropping the weight? And don't try to go right back to that, but like make a list. And out of that list, what can you do on that list that does feel like you can sustain that and start there? And then I'm not seeing any other comments coming through. So if anyone is still on with us live, let us know in the comments. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and explain. So if you feel like you got what you needed from tonight's call, I hope you did. It's simple, but it's complex because there's a lot of it depends before we can specifically answer your question. So again, let us know if you desire that one-on-one support that is still available to you. If you are somebody who did take us off on that offer at the beginning, you can use that as a credit towards one of these offers. But remember, these offers are only good until Friday at 1 p.m. So we have 2 offers, and both involve some level of one-on-one mentorship. We have only 5 available for each, okay? So the first one is going to include an onboarding session where we tell you everything you need to know, how to find everything, how to best utilize your time with us. Then we have a follow-up initial nutrition strategy session, and that's where we assign you, like, we'll give you homework during your onboarding call. Then in that initial setup, we are going to go over everything you need to do to get started. So similar, but a little bit different than if you did the like intro call with us for this challenge. And then basically Monday through Friday, 24/7 access to ask whatever questions that you have relative to your integration work that we do assign and assess to you. So that is normally $1,777. We are offering that at $888, okay? And that is for a 6-month term. So this is like insane that we're even offering that. If you're somebody that has worked with us in the past, or even anybody that is like current clients, time is potentially elapsing with us, you are also eligible to take advantage of that. It's for everybody in this challenge, okay? Everybody who showed up on this call. This also includes, for the duration of that mentorship with us, all of our online resources that are our client-only resources, and they just help your understanding a lot more with your nutrition. And then we have some other stuff for just like, stepping into your power, your feminine energy, like all these other topics that we get to dive into with the women that are one-on-one with us. So that is offer number one. Offer number two is essentially the same, except it's Monday only access to ask your questions. We are in WhatsApp frequently throughout the day, most days. So it's not like you just get the opportunity to ask one question and you're done. It's ask everything you need to know throughout the day, and we go back and forth, and it's a beautiful conversation, and it still moves women ahead. It's just some women desire to have that like every day. I know I'm going to have questions. Other women are like, no, I just need to check in once a week. Okay. So that one, the second one that I'm talking about right now, is normally $1,222. We are offering that for $611. Again, these are 6-month terms. So this is like, I don't think we've ever offered anything this low. Like, this is insane. So if you feel like you want that help, you should definitely let us know which one sounds better for you. That's only available again until Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So that is everything for today's conversation. Hope you enjoyed, hope you got a lot out of it, and definitely don't hesitate to reach out to us as long as it's before 1 p.m. on Friday if you desire to step into one of those offers with us. Hope you all have an amazing Tuesday night, and don't forget to join us back. We're going to relate sort of this conversation to how that shows up for your hormones on Friday with Jamie at 12 p.m. Eastern. So that is what's next, and we will be back in here to remind you of that before then. Have an awesome night. We will see you ladies soon.